Thank you, Edith. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Latinas in Tech Summit. And I'm excited to be joining you today for our panel, How to Build Inclusive and Accessible Products. For many years, technology has been launched to the general public, and very few companies think of the diverse consumer. The machine learns, from its creators, and sometimes the product benefits the mainstream. In this panel, we'll discuss the importance of designing products with the diverse consumer in mind. So let's get started, and let's start by having our panel introduce themselves and maybe tell us a little bit about what it means to be inclusive in your work.
I'll go ahead and go first.
All right, thanks.
Sure, yeah, my name's Tove Clark. I'm living in the Bay Area, and I'm the Executive Creative Director for TurboTax Brand and Marketing, ensuring cohesion between product and marketing, and also innovating ways to build brand loyalty and brand equity. And being inclusive in the work that I do involves everything from the team that we build, how we are very intentional about ensuring that we represent the multitude of perspectives in the world, and then keeping ourselves accountable to ensure that the products that we create are equally reflective of the world around us.
Thank you. Who'd like to go next?
I can go next.
Thanks, Monique.
Of course. Hi, yeah, thanks. I already gave a little intro. So hi, I'm Monique Garcia. I'm currently a product manager at HBO Max. I lead our kids and family global product experience. Just to kind of touch on your question, when I think inclusiveness, when building products, and really specifically within my arena, kids, it's not just taking into account, right, the aspect of the household, the parent, safety aspects, but really we want to ensure that the experience we're creating is best suited for kids of varying ages, demographics, even geographical locations, given global, domestic. So, I'll go into it a little bit further, but I think just to kind of touch on something high level is, kids have different preferences and there are different age demographics. The way in which we're looking at our experience is it's really to meet the needs of where they are from a development, from a cognitive standpoint. And that's really how at least me and my team expand our portfolio when it comes to inclusiveness and just looking at the experience all up.
All right, thanks.
Hi, I'm Mariana Castro, and I'm a product design director at Meta. I'm responsible for the Facebook home design team. So all the things that you interact with when you land on the Facebook app, feed, stories, reels, the creation processes are a part of what my team does. And to me, being inclusive in my work goes all the way from building an inclusive and diverse team to making sure everyone feels welcomed and having that inclusive culture, as well as building products that are really meant for everyone, that are built with a universal mindset instead of just a few, and that we are delivering value to as broad of an audience as possible, regardless of age, race, location. So it's really bringing that into everything we do.
Great, thank you. Well, you guys are all involved in industries and fields that I think are widely used. So I think it's going to be really relevant to the discussion. So when I think about diversity and inclusiveness, right, it's been a topic of conversation, especially in the last 3 to 4 years. So when you think about products and the focus around diversity and inclusiveness, why do you think that product inclusion is so important? And maybe we start with Monique.
Yeah, of course, I could kick us off. I think it's just to note it is of the most importance. And I think the fact that it's definitely something that's top of mind, even more so when it comes to product design and just even, a wider span, it's great. So I think when looking specifically at a product, and I'll kind of focus this around like my remit, right? So when looking at a product geared towards children, we want to ensure that every child has the ability to autonomously navigate, explore that product. So within HBO Max, we consider, not only the appropriate content to surface for a kid, but also the UI, the components that are best suited for different age demos, different children in general. So our experience is intended to age with the child. So offering more content from our kids' catalog, even increasing the usage of, an example text for some of our older kids. In the case of, say, a younger kid user, a toddler, for instance, they have limited fine and motor growth skills. So in this case, we would rely more so on visual navigational tools such as our character row that we have, which helps them to immediately find content they're looking for. So really kind of breaking down what is seen as one large segment and isolating like what are those moments in which we can best serve to them the experience that meets their needs.
Thank you. I love that. You think of every child. I love that. Mariana, what are your thoughts? Why do you think product inclusion is so important?
Yeah, to me, it's really all about access, right? And especially in the work that we do, people go to Facebook for a lot of different types of use cases and really trying to accomplish something. In a lot of cases, it's around access, right? Access to information, access to your friends, access to even finding a way to make money on the platform. So to me, the more access we give to people and making sure that we are not benefiting a specific group, but really thinking about everyone that could be leveraging this to have access to accomplishing their goals and being successful in life. To me, that's why it's so important that we look at this product from an inclusive lens.
I like that. Access. I like it. Access for all, it sounds like. And Christopher, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's kind of similar to Mariana. In my instance, I work in fintech. And if I think about how wisdom as it pertains to finances, financial literacy, tax wisdom, historically, it's not been equally distributed. So in my case, it's about creating access to the same knowledge, and opportunities that probably the wealthiest Americans have access to. And the truth is that we're all better when we're all better. So making sure that people can see themselves in the product, that instills more confidence in them, that it's the right solution, and that their unique needs can be met irrespective of income level or background or occupation. Creating really one-to-one personalized journeys is the way to, increase relevance and make sure that more people have access to better outcomes when it comes to their finances.
Yeah, great. I like we're all better when we're all better. Gosh, you guys should be in marketing. I like it. So when we think about, there have been decades of precedents demanding equal access. Why do you think that there are still challenges that remain? Mariana, maybe you'd like to start us off?
Yeah, I think there is widely across the tech industry, I feel like there's still lack of representation in areas. So to me, that's still a challenge that we all need to overcome. And also, I feel like there is not a common understanding or the fact that how to build inclusive products isn't fully permeated across all organizations in the industry. I also see it as a challenge. Meta has been doing a lot of work to make sure that we're building an inclusive environment, that we are hiring diverse talent, that we are training people inclusive design practices and inclusive product practices. I feel like it's going to take time for this to fully mature, but I see like there's great progress happening across the board, but I think there's still some challenges that we need to work through.
Thanks. And Chris, what do you think?
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, just to build a bit on what Mariana pointed to, I would make the case maybe it's just really systemic. There's challenges throughout the pipeline, whether it be at senior leadership level and a lack of representation there, and and intentionality about having diversity of perspectives, all the way down to access to education and those first job opportunities. There's lots of room for improvement. And then when you get into a lot of corporate cultures, those systems were designed without inclusivity in mind, especially in the case of a lot of like older tech companies. So a lot of processes that may seem benign to a lot of folks are really just reinforcing the same ways of working and the same voices to be, given an opportunity to speak up. So it's really, redressing all of those systems that we work within and putting them through the pressure test of if they're really servicing, the great many people.
Thank you. Monique, would you like to add anything?
I mean, if there was a +1, I would have been, hitting it this whole time. I think, my fellow panelists kind of knocked it out of the park. I think just one other thing to add, because I don't want to reiterate what they've said so well, but there isn't a one size fits all when it comes to determining what or how we solve these challenges, how each challenge affects different organizations, different teams. But I think definitely, at least over my career and even in my most recent stitch, I can say the amount of strategic thinking and effort that's being put forth to address some of these challenges. A lot of it, I would say, is still behind the curtain, of meeting the needs of employees, of our customers, of our users, and really just kind of, I think, structurally, the way everything is shaped is ever growing. So completely agree with where my panelists are, and yeah, it's a huge challenge. And I think having a panel such as this with individuals such as ourselves showing representation, being able to put a face to certain positions that you may not see faces like this as often as out there is just another kind of great step forward.
Yeah, I agree. And kind of following up on that, theme of, you guys are in the trenches, you guys are doing the work. From your point of view, what are the challenges, when trying to make a product that's inclusive of many diverse populations? Maybe we start with you, Monique. What do you think?
Sure. No, that sounds great. I will say that I'm going to be followed by 2 what it sounds like amazing design leads. So bear with me, folks. I'm going to just give this from a product perspective, which I'm sure you hear in meetings every single day. So I would just say, looking within my arena specifically, determining like a few areas that I think that should be kept in mind for factors of what the team designing a product will kind of that you want to consider is one, and first and foremost, it's what is the end user goal that is going to define criteria to meet success of what you're looking at, and then really being able to set some guardrails of that, because I'm sure being in a space right now too with some folks more so on the creative design UI side, we can go any which way. So for instance, when looking at products, or like if we take it one level deeper, right? So when looking at features for kids, you want to ensure that one, it satisfies the needs of those users. So going back to that top point, and then 2, is it as seamlessly usable for as many kids, either of that age, of that interest? So those are, I think, some probably foundational criteria I would look at. Would love to hear, what our other panelists think as well. I did want to say that I did start with saying from the product side, because this is more so a design heavy question. So excited to hear what they have to share too.
Yeah. So Christopher, what do you think?
Yeah, it's a rich challenge, right? My background's in marketing, and I think historically marketing, even though it may have tried to be a little bit more sort of nuanced in how it delivered a message to each person, it was largely kind of a blunt force, one big giant takeaway that was sort of, equally presented to people without calibrating for context and sort of meeting them where they are. And the journey that we're on, that I'm part of, is to create, as I mentioned, like more one-to-one experiences, so that rather than just sort of being prescriptive about how you're having a conversation with a person, really tailoring it to that moment where they might be in terms of consideration or awareness, etc. And then the same thing in the product, creating a product that is a little bit more based on individual intention is one way to ensure that it's more of a tailored experience, meeting someone where they are. So for example, if someone prioritizes speed as one example in the process of filing their taxes, the product ideally should be able to assemble around that intention. And then conversely, if someone's a little bit concerned about making a mistake, that they would be able to have their needs serviced in a different way, and that the product wouldn't be a single experience. And then beyond that, there's really tactical opportunities in terms of the imagery that we use, which is something that we're always looking to make sure is contemporary and relevant and reflective, again, of the world, whether that be something that's sort of obvious as a point of distinction, or something that might not be obvious, like in the form of neurodiversity, making sure that the content and the visuals are always inviting, optimistic, full possibility, and inspire wonder.
Inspire wonder, like that. Mariana, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, plus one to what both Christopher and Monique mentioned. To me, like a product that is truly inclusive needs to be relevant, useful, and usable by like as wide a range of people as possible. And in order to do that, you need to understand who these people are, right? And what their needs are and what they're looking for in that type of product. So access to research and data that is wide and broad enough to make the right product decisions, to identify what are the needs, the pain points that this large audience has, and how to create something that feels relevant to them, that is going to be adding value to what they are trying to accomplish. And in the process of doing that, I think one of the challenges that we face sometimes when like designing universal products is how to manage complexity when you are trying to cater to the different audiences and their needs. And customization is a big part of that, right? Allowing for personalized experiences where you can really go in and tinker with the product and like tailor it to how you want to use it. And how do you do that in a way that is super straightforward without adding complexity? I would call that out as one of the challenges that we have as a part of that process. But I think the biggest thing is really looking across that wide user base and really understanding who are the people that you're serving, and trying to do it in a way that everyone feels like they are a part of the process and they get value out of that product.
Mm-hmm. That everyone feels they're part of the process. Yeah, I like the inclusivity of that. You all are experts kind of in your fields, right? You've been doing this for a while. So if we think about, what advice would you give to people that maybe are kind of starting so that they develop projects or products, excuse me, that, think about that diverse end user? What would be, some advice for them to consider? And, I'm kind of the older school. We talked about the older generation, and sometimes it takes us a little while. So Toph, I think I got that right. Is that right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. What do you think?
You mentioned like experience, and we've all been doing this, our various professions for a long time. But I wouldn't ever sort of profess personally that I have it all figured out and mastered. And I think one of the sort of bigger guiding principles is the idea of just trying to make sure the intention is right. Knowing that I'm gonna mess up and make mistakes is one thing I try to keep top of mind, you know, that I'm not always gonna have the answer. Beyond that, I think it's just really, you know, doubling down on curiosity and opening your heart up and always trying to, you know, be a good listener, you know, and just remain open. And I think when you sort of focus on those tenets, it creates the condition for inclusivity to happen more freely. Hopefully there's an environment where more people are brought to the table and they feel free to speak up and therefore it sort of happens organically.
Yeah, like that, you know, like that, you know, you don't have it all figured out. I think if we're honest, that's the truth for probably all of us. So that's good advice. Monique, what would you like to share?
Well, I feel like +1 is just going to be the thing we're going to say right now, because that 100% agree with everything. So I think to add more, right? Because everything that was just mentioned is so helpful. Like, it's one of those things I feel like, right, a decade ago, we probably all would have loved to have heard. I think one of the things that people still probably shy away from is asking questions. Any question's okay. Obviously, you know, we can Google something, but being able to talk to someone, if you have an idea, run with it. But like, bring your team along for the ride. I think because odds are, you know, an idea can foster something new, something innovative, or even something simply that, you know, was needed for improvement. So I think, you know, ask questions, run with ideas, creativity, curiosity, but bring people with you, because I feel as though, you know, collaboration, teamwork, you really thrive and strive when you're, you know, not just working in that silo, but share your thoughts. And I'm sure other folks are either thinking something similar, or, you know, together you guys are just going to, you know, build something even more impressive. So, so yeah.
All right, thanks. Mariana.
Yeah, I love that take on collaboration, because I totally agree. Like, partnering with like so many different functions and understanding like their thoughts and where they're coming from, I feel like has helped me a ton, just like seeing the problem from a different perspective and from a different angle. And I think that helps us build diverse products, because we are like coming at it with a diverse mindset, trying to understand all these different like different perspectives about the problem or the solutions that we're coming up with. And I would say, like, especially for the design community, like, research is your friend. Make sure that you're tight to the hip with your research partner. There's just like so much that we can leverage throughout the whole like product development cycle. When we think about, is this product, does it have value for a diverse audience? Is it delivering? What are the benefits that it's delivering? What are the pain points that we're solving for? Like, research can absolutely like help identify that, and that is actually like fuel for inclusive design work, right? So I would say partner with your research partner and team from the get-go. Make sure that you're testing your concepts with, like, your product concepts with a diverse audience. Make sure that you are coming back with them with your prototypes to understand if the outcome that you're trying to get to with that product is like fully usable, that people can accomplish those tasks. And again, using a wide, like a broad range of people in those studies to understand that not only like what you're building, but also like how you're building it, if that's resonating with people. So I would say, like, research is your friends, and leverage that, and leverage data in your process, because it's going to help like go out of like our own little worlds into a much bigger picture view of the world.
Mm-hmm. Great advice. Thank you all. And you mentioned, you know, collaboration, and I heard the word partnerships, you know, in what you guys said. How important do you think it is for a technical team that develops products for the team itself to be diverse? And does it influence the way that the product satisfies the needs of people? What do you think, Monique?
Yeah, no, I could get the ball rolling. Extremely important. Like, this group is the representation of an obvious of why it's important. I think, you know, diversity is not just like who we see here, which clearly this group is diverse and amazing. It's also mindset. It's also, you know, culture. There's so many aspects of diversity that, you know, you want to take into account. So every team, I feel as though, has the ability to offer different perspectives for ideating, problem solving, collaboration, as we just touched on, etc. When diversifying those individuals within the team, you're just given even more ways to look at the problem, to analyze, to even analyze the data, right? Because your data drives everything, but also it's different interpretations of that. And then from there, you're able to then consider potentially more solutions, different solution paths combined. So just going to double down, extremely important. And I think it will always make for the optimal experience. And I think in all of our worlds, I'm sure we could imagine, we always have an MVP product, right? We have a goal of what we wanted, and sometimes we have to scale down. By having that diverse group team of technical partners, you're able to really consider what is the true MVP experience of any product for multiple user segments. So yes, I think it is extremely important.
All right, thanks. Toph, would you like to add anything?
Yes, I would like to add something. Yeah, just to build off of what Monique was saying, you know, I would make the case that design and maybe advertising more generally is just by definition a team sport, and therefore extremely collaborative. There's only so much that can be accomplished as an individual. So once you know, lean into the fact that it takes a group, a village, in a lot of cases, that's a really great opportunity to round out the team and find, you know, the opportunity for complement. And I would say when it comes to the technical teams, it's essential, as Monique mentioned. It's really cool actually at Intuit. Collaboration is so essential, and being a design-led organization, everybody is trained in design thinking, whether you're a receptionist or the general manager. And what it does in this context is it facilitates like a common language and a common way of working between, you know, experienced design and engineering partners, so that it does foster that co-creation. Because as was mentioned before, you know, it's not just sort of background but it's also experience and mindset, and looking for, you know, as many points of view as possible in order to entertain as many possibilities when you're trying to solve for customer needs. So it's really cool that, you know, design has that capacity to facilitate that collaboration with engineers and more technical folks.
Thanks. Yeah, and Mariana, you know, having diversity on the technical team when developing products, how important or how much influence do you think that has?
Yeah, I think it's very important. First, because like the topics that were already brought up in terms of bringing your own like lived experience into the product development process and understanding that each one of us have a different perspective, I think is already super valuable, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean that outside of like that group that we know all the things that are going on because we are diverse, but it means that we're bringing already different perspectives and discussion to the table in a way that is going to help us build better products. And I think the other piece of this is also like getting the whole team in, like having this empathy for differences and just like understanding and being curious about learning more about like different cultures or different backgrounds. And I think that, and I think it helps build empathy with the users, like the different users that we're trying to serve. So I look at it from those two angles, like the team and how we think about the product from like different angles, perspectives, and backgrounds, and like the level of empathy that we get to build because we are already like working pretty well in a diverse environment, and like it gets to curiosity, learning more about different cultures, getting like closer to like these different user bases that might not be like your neighbor, but it is someone that you can see yourself in, you know?
Yeah. Oh, great takeaway. Empathy for differences. That's a nice takeaway. So I saved kind of the more technical question for the, as we wrap up the panel. But let's maybe talk a little bit about artificial intelligence. And we've heard that, when the machine learns from content created by a wide community, that maybe sometimes the results not always DE and I friendly. What are your thoughts on that? And do you agree, with that idea? Mariana, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think we've seen already like examples on even when you are like leveraging a very robust content base, the results might not end up super inclusive. And I think it all goes back to some of the topics that we already talked about here, because the AI is another product, right? There are humans that are like training that bot to become smarter over time. And we naturally, because we're humans, we're bringing some biases into the table, right? So being aware and like totally unexpected ones or unintentional ones, but knowing that that's going to be a natural part of the process, being able to build in tests to avoid those biases, right? To really pressure test, to understand if the system is learning things the right way, that the biases are being spotted early on, that you are really training it in a way that feels healthy for how people are going to use it. So yeah, I agree with that, and I feel like there are a lot of like checks and balances that need to be put in place to make sure we're building more inclusive AI.
All right, thanks, Toph. Well, anything to add?
Yeah, well, someone smart said a lot of tech is like fire, like it's neither good nor bad. It can cause really positive things and it can cause some negative ones as well. And it really just comes down to how it's used. So, as Mariana mentioned, it's really about the intention and what's behind it, and who's helping to guide what it's used for can produce vastly different outcomes. We're still, I would say, in a lot of ways, like discovering the right balance of how we feed AI and machine learning, and what level of human curation is still required. And it's probably something that's going to take some time to get it just right, and may not always be right, but it really comes down to those people who are helping drive it to ensure that it's serving the most people, and when some unintended implications arise, that it's addressed, right away.
Okay, thanks. Monique.
Yeah, I think just kind of touching on what Mariana said at the top, there's going to be bias, but being able to test, when you make these either variations to an algorithm, a slight tweak, like that's how we're going to enhance some of our machine learning algorithms we have. I know the level of machine learning expectations from a user in streaming, for instance, is quite high, right? So having personalized algorithmic driven components, essentially threaded through your entire experience, it's an expectation now. So when something doesn't quite feel tailored to you, the assumption is that something could be off with the algo, right? It's not meeting your needs, your taste preferences. So I think one thing that we do, at least at Max, is we attempt to kind of blend the utilization of data-driven experiences but powered by humans. So allowing for individuals to make that essentially beautiful balance of AI meets human, right? Because it's as both my panelists had noted, it's something that we're continuing to grow and evolve and really iterate. So by having this kind of checks and balance of human meets robotic, that kind of allows for us to build that curve of how we're addressing our learnings.
Yeah, another great takeaway, right? Powered by humans. I like it. So as we kind of come towards the end of the panel, I'd ask, you've shared some great information and some really insightful takeaways for the audience. Is there anything you'd like to highlight right? As we kind of close out the panel, that you'd like our audience to remember as we walk away. Toph, is there anything
Yeah,
thanks.
I happen to be sporting a background that we just made for the teams that I run recently, and it's about that spirit of speaking your mind. Oftentimes at Intuit, it's tiger teams that make the most change. And so we just sort of took on that moniker of never backing down from an opportunity. And that's the thing I probably want to leave folks with, is just the invitation, the courage, and the customer obsession to speak up and advocate for those things that are right.
All right. Yes, Mariana.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Like +1 to that. Yeah, being the voice of the customer, right? Like I feel like that's what we're here for in the product development cycle. And I would say, like, out of all the things that we talked about, like keeping in mind that mantra of like relevant, useful, and usable, right? Like these 3 marks when it comes to delivering products for a wide variety of people and diverse user base, making sure that you're really asking yourself, is this relevant for not only the small group of people, but as universal as possible. So I want to leave it at that.
All right. And Monique, you want to close us out?
Yeah, I think, well, first off, like, love the background. It's amazing. I kind of want to take it now back with me for my next meeting. And then also, Mariana, agree 100% with what you said. So I think just a few kind of closing add-ons is, I would say, in this group represented it well too, like leading with empathy and being openness, right? But being open to collaboration. So, I think in all of our fields and in all of tech, everyone comes with a very strong and thoughtful or well thought out opinion, but really kind of, ensuring that you're always being considerate, leading with empathy, and really that kind of team collaboration or cross-partner collaboration is really what I think is going to get everyone to some form of a finish line, whether it's a sprint, whether it's a marathon, or it's just, an ongoing triathlon. Those are, I think, some of the things that I would probably want to give as a takeaway, especially as if you're in more of a triathlon, it's never ending cycle. So just always be empathetic and be willing to collaborate with anyone.
Awesome. Yeah. And we are at the finish line of our panel today. So thank you very much to our panelists, Mariana, Toph, and Monique, for being willing to share your experience, your insights. I know I'm leaving with some takeaways, that are key, and hopefully the audience is too. So thank you very much. And thank you to the audience.